Numerical analysis. Oh, these are awesome. Short gaseous method. Nice. Oh, I love these. Now, if you want to, you can feel free to change that name. But personally, I like keeping these sometimes, except for when I need to reference it later, then it makes it kind of a problem. But awesome, exciting. So got a few so far. For today, actually, REPL, I believe, requires you to make a name. So hopefully you are coding, like you've actually set up your account and created your account, and you're not coding within the little ID it gives you on the page. So the great thing about this is you will be able to reference um, what you coded today. And I will be sharing our project that I'm going to break down for us today. I'm going to actually give you a copy from my personal REPL account that you'll be able to fork and to play with later, which is really nice. So awesome. All right, so we have more and more people hopping on. So I'm just going to give it 2 more minutes. So right for after, we'll go ahead and we'll start with a brief introduction before we start coding. So if anyone pops in, then they won't quite miss anything yet. But these are awesome. I love these velvety grubby agents. Nice. Infantile French chord. What? Full flawless plans. That's my favorite. Flawless plans. Nice. Awesome. Where is everyone located? What university or school? Where is everyone from today? Mississauga? Is that how you pronounce it? Did I pronounce that right? All right. New Brunswick, nice. Quebec. Oh, everyone's from all around. This is exciting. Waterloo. Okay, expected. Nova Scotia, nice. Vancouver, oh, the best city. I learned BC, that's what BC stands for, actually. Well, wait, that's technically a province, right? All right, just for disclosure, I'm American, so best country. BC is its own country, y'all. We don't associate with the rest of Canada. That's rude. Cali, like California, hi, neighbor-ish. We're in the same country. California is still pretty far. I'm closer to Quebec at this point and most of Ontario. Awesome. Fantastic. You guys can keep putting in like your cities, what schools you're attending. This is great. I'm learning. I don't know where's McMaster? I don't know where McMaster is. Is that in
Hamilton.
Ontario? Oh, it's in Hamilton. Oh, okay. Awesome. Great. What's the kilometer? It is 0.6 of a mile, 0.7. Something like that. A better way of mentioning. Yes, I actually agree with that because I think it's like 5,620 feet or 680 feet. See, that doesn't even make sense. I can just do by hundreds and tens. Absolutely right. I don't understand kilos. Don't get me started on those. I don't know. We're actually DJ's like, look, when you're gonna start talking about Dev Degree, this is what I came here for. All right. And that's fine. We're going to go ahead and actually get started. And before we jump into coding, we are actually going to talk a little bit about Dev Degree. It's not like that. It's all right. I understand. I'm already talking too much. No, I'm kidding. I love you guys already. I'm so excited. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's workshop. So I am Rita. I am a technical educator at Shopify as a part of the Dev Degree program. I started at Shopify actually back in July of this past year. So I've now been with the company for 6 months. And if you do become a part of Dev Degree's program, you get to hang out with me your first of your 4 years in our program, where I get to teach you all of the languages and the tools and technologies that you need to know in order to be a successful dev at Shopify for the remaining years of your schooling and with your employment with Shopify. Is Ruby the best language? Yes, Ruby is the best language, of course. But I'm going to go ahead and let Vince take it away. And Vince will introduce himself, tell you what he does at Shopify, and then we'll talk a bit about the Dev Degree program as well.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. So my name is Vince. I am the training path lead at Dev Degree. So I oversee all the technical educators and the training program that our interns go through when they first join Dev Degree. I've been at Shopify for a year and a half now. Previously, in the startup world a little bit. I had a stint in some higher education for a little bit, and that took me to the Dev Degree program, which is a sort of a culmination of what I love best about education and computer science put together. So I'll do like a little intro of what the Dev Degree program is, and we could have a little bit of discussion before we get into our coding our Ruby replit. So Dev Degree is a 4-year work integrated learning program that combines computer science degree with hands-on developer experience at Shopify. So I like to call it co-op on steroids. Basically, what you'll do is you'll spend, if you enter this program, you'll enter in a partnership with Carleton University or York University. Those are our two academic partners who offer this program. And you'll spend half of your time at university learning computer science theory and earning your degree. But you also spend half of your time at Shopify working on engineering teams, and you get academic credit for the time you spend at Shopify. So you do 3 courses per term at our partner universities at Carleton or York, and then you do another 25 hours a week at Shopify, and you get academic credit for that. So you get a total of 4 credits per semester through this work integrated learning program. Before this pandemic hit, students would actually spend physical time at our university partners. So they would go to class, they would attend all the normal lectures that they would normally attend, and then they would come to Shopify and work on their engineering teams. As of right now, everything is remote. Both of our partners are on a remote learning schedule. We imagine that once everything clears up, they will want our interns back on campus. So right now, our partnership with Carleton and York University are out of Toronto and Ottawa, but right now we're all sort of remote. So what does that mean in terms of your 4 years at Dev Degree? So your very first year, you actually spend the first 8 months with Rita and my team learning developer-specific tools. So this is for first-year university students entering a computer science degree. There is a gap between what they know coming into university and what you need to know to be successful on an engineering team. We have a lot of cool technology at Shopify that they don't really teach at university, and there's a lot of things that you need to know to be on an engineering team that they'll teach you at university in years like 3 or 4. Things like databases, you don't typically learn that until year 3. You need to know that before you go onto an engineering team. We use Ruby and Ruby on Rails at Shopify, so we go through a whole big boot camp learning Ruby and learning Ruby on Rails, which we just actually kicked off Ruby on Rails this week with our first-year interns learning that framework. And then we teach cool things like React, GraphQL, and all the cool technology that Shopify uses in order to get onto a team. So after those first 8 months, our team goes through and finds engineering teams who can accept interns, and you go on a work placement with them. So in your very first year, your very first placement is actually 12 months. You'll spend 12 months with an engineering team actually producing production level code, contributing to that team, and building Shopify. After that first term is over, your next 2 terms are 8 months long. So one of our goals at Shopify is to give all of our Dev Degree interns a breadth of experience. So experience on many different teams and many different technologies. You can spend your first placement on a back-end placement, and then your next placement maybe on a data team or a production engineering team. Or we've seen interns go into like an AR and VR sort of team. But there's a ton of opportunity on these engineering teams, and we like to give our interns a wide array of experience. So when they come out of the program, they could decide, what they're passionate about and what they want to pursue down the road. So like I said, it's a little bit different than a typical co-op program. Co-op programs typically last 5 years, and in typical co-op programs, you'll do a study term, and then you'll do a work term. Whereas at Dev Degree, it's 4 years, and you're always going to be balancing work and study in the same term. So like I said, you'll spend half of your week doing academic stuff and half of your week working at Shopify and getting that academic credit. We also pair you up with mentors on your engineering teams. So someone who is invested in your growth, someone who you could bounce questions off of, someone who will guide you along your engineering journey on your development team. So you're definitely not alone when you join those development teams. We also give all of our interns Life at Shopify mentors. So an employee at Shopify who's not necessarily in engineering, they could be, but they could be from the marketing department, they could be from talent, they could be from anywhere. And that's just another resource that we have for our interns that they can have coffee chats with, talk about career growth, or just anything non-technical related if they like to. We like to have that support there with them. And then we have our Dev Degree team for support as well. So there's a ton of support that we give our interns throughout the course of their program. So the biggest question is, who can apply to Dev Degree? Who's allowed to apply to Dev Degree? So basically, any grade 12 student entering their first year in first year studies in university is welcome to apply. We also welcome mature students, international students, and first year undergraduate computer science students. If you're past your first year of undergrad in computer science, then the Dev Degree program is probably not the right choice for you. Our normal campus intern program is probably the better choice, just because you've already gone so far in your computer science journey that we teach you a bunch of beginner stuff that you already sort of know. So yeah, right now our applications are open. Our deadline is February 14th, I believe. So there's plenty of time to check out our website, devdegree.ca, learn more about our program. You can email us at anytime at info@devdegree.ca if you have any questions about applications or about the program. There's always someone there answering that email. And like I said, applications are open until February 14th, and we hope you take a peek. Yeah. Is there any questions in the chat? Quick questions. Do you accept transfers from other universities? So like I mentioned before, if you're a first year computer science student going into your second year, then you can, there's ability to transfer, but if you're beyond that, then Dev Degree is probably not the best option for you. These students have their summers off to go places that aren't Shopify. So our program does run through the summers. You will be still at Shopify through summer and taking academic school in summer. One benefit about that is summer terms are usually a little slower on the university side, and Shopify is pretty flexible around work-life balance. So we find that summer is a bit of a downtime, and there is a lot of time for interns to take vacation days, which they have at Shopify. One thing I actually didn't mention, which is like the big thing, is we also pay your tuition while you're in Dev Degree. I don't know how I forgot that. So as you're at Shopify and in the Dev Degree program, we will pay your tuition as long as you're in the program, which is super cool. It's a really big opportunity. How competitive is the application process? I would say I never say it's competitive. I would say it's popular. We do have a lot of applicants. We do a blind screening, so we don't know any identifying aspects of our applicants. We just judge them based on their application. So I'd recommend reading our application and really trying to show yourself through that application process. Okay, I'll answer a couple more questions, but I want to get to the coding. So what else do we have here? Would you recommend this for students in other programs beyond first year? I would recommend our campus intern program. So it's a it's a more of a typical internship. It's a 4 month internship, or 4 or 3 month internship that the campus team runs, and that happens every semester. So I recommend applying to that, which you'll get experience in Shopify, but they won't pay your tuition, unfortunately. In the end, is a computer science or software engineering degree. So both of our partner universities are computer science degrees. So Carleton, it's a Bachelor of Computer Science, and at York, it's a Bachelor of Science with computer science major. Is Dev Degree looking for new interns every year? We look for new interns every single year, and we're doing our application process right now. So yeah.
Right now. So
right now,
Alejandro, that means I want to see your name next week. Okay. But
all right.
if you'd like to, yeah, we're accepting applications now, and we do every year. So if you're interested, go to Dev Degree. Is it devdegree.ca? Yes.
.ca.
Woo, .ca. And next year. All right. See, good thing he's already thinking about his options. So fantastic. And like I said, any questions that we didn't get to, please drop them into the Discord channel. We'll be hanging out there, I guess, throughout the remainder of Hack the North, right? Throughout the remainder of the week. So please feel free to answer there. Myself, if I can, Vince, if he can, as well as our other members from Shopify that are there. Someone will be able to answer your question and point you in the direction of the information that you will need to have your question answered. So, all right, let's go ahead. Yeah, awesome. And then, yeah, as we go through today's workshop, I have 2 asks for you. The first ask is, as we go through the different concepts I'm going to cover today, I definitely encourage you all to share the links to your REPLs, I believe is what they shorten them to, REPLs, inside of chat, right? Myself, if I can, but Vince is here to tag team with me and to help out with, just looking at the different things that you've made, troubleshooting if you run into any problems. We won't be able to check everyone's after each step. But again, if you want us to take a peek, if you can't quite figure it out, like, go ahead and please drop your link into chat. We'll be happy to help. The other thing I want to stress is teamwork. I believe teamwork makes the dream work, right? So as everyone's sharing their links, especially if someone's having an issue, if you've coded that step and yours is working great, please definitely feel free to help each other out. As potential students who are going to be on software engineering teams, it's all about teamwork and making sure everyone's working together to get your code to work correctly. So please feel free to help each other out too as we go through today. All right. So we're going to go ahead and use the remainder of our time to jump into some coding. So why are my slides duplicated? Oh, they're not. That's just the weird glitch with Google Slides. All right. So a little bit about Ruby. Ruby was created by Yukihiro Matsumoto. I believe they actually started creating it back in 91, 92, but it was released to the public in 1995. Ruby is an interpreted language, so that means it doesn't need to be compiled into machine language before the code is executed. So I know some of you in here, it looks like we have some like grade 11s in here too as well. So some of you might be familiar with like Java already and have dived your hands into that. Yeah, Java has to be compiled. And then some older languages that existed before my time, before Vince's time, have also had to be compiled. So yeah, that's the great thing about Ruby and newer languages similar to like JavaScript and other newer programming languages like Python. Oop, wrong way, sorry. So today I'm going to show you all a game that I built. And with this game, I built it right inside a Replit. And I'm going to go over the concepts that I used today to build this game. Now, for the sake of time and with the amount of people that we have in here, unfortunately, we won't be building this specific game from scratch. However, I will share my code with you at the end of today's workshop. So if you would like to fork it onto your own Replit account, play around with it, change things out, you'll be more than welcome to do so. But I'm going to actually take the game and we're going to learn these concepts. We're going to code them ourselves. And then I'm just going to show you parts of the game where I use that particular concept in order to create that feature. So today we're going to talk about some very basic Ruby concepts. So for some of you, if you already have some type of programming language experience, you'll start seeing some similarities between like Java or JavaScript, Python. Some of you may already be kind of a little bit more advanced to this and might work a little bit faster, which will just then give you the ability to kind of, you know, add on to what we're doing. But this workshop for today assumes no programming language knowledge whatsoever. You may not have ever coded a line of code in your life, but that's totally fine because I'm going to walk you through the basics for today. So we're going to talk about put statements, how to gather user input, methods. We're going to talk about if-else statements as well as case expressions. So let me go ahead and show you my game. And I want all of you to play along with me. So what I created is a lyric guessing game. So, and I actually need to shorten this because I don't want you to see the answers. So for my lyric guessing game that I have created, I have used Taylor Swift. And I've used 3 of her songs in order to create this game because Taylor Swift is my absolute favorite artist. I'm kidding, but with here at Shopify and anyone that is that's here today that has been a Shopify intern with us, we have our favorite musicians, we have our favorite themes that we like to use. So the cool thing about us too is that with every course that you go throughout the program, we're going to give you some type of like theme centered around it. And a couple of our instructors absolutely love Taylor Swift. So this is in fact a workshop that I built for some of the students, a spinoff of a workshop that I built for some of my students inside of our program. So I'm going to go ahead and run the game. And I want everyone in chat to help me go through the app and ultimately guess the lyric that we're going to be using, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and run it. So welcome today, everyone, to Guess That Lyric. So today we're going to guess the next lyric to our favorite Taylor Swift songs. All right, so I have Blank Space, Love Story, and Welcome to New York. Everyone in chat, go ahead and put a number in. Which song am I choosing? Got a lot of blank space lovers in here. Seeing a lot of ones. All right. Got some 2s and some 3s. All right. So it looks like I'm going to have to go with 1 just because it looks like that seems to be the number 1 song everyone seems to know. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 1. So, oh my God, look at that face. What is the next line in this song? Go ahead and put it into chat. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm listening to you, so if I get it wrong, get to blame everyone in chat. You look like my next mistake. All right, I did it. Don't be shy. Who Googled it? Fantastic. Right. Yep. So the next line in the song was "You look like my next mistake." So the user is then able to enter in the correct line, and with it, then the computer tells you did a great job. I'm going to go ahead and run it just one more time. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick Love Story this time because number 2 was also another favorite. All right. So for this one, if you want to go ahead and tell me the next line, that's fine. But for this one, just to show you all how the application works, I'm going to put in the completely wrong lyric. I'm going to just make some stuff up. So see the lights, see the lights, see the party, see the ball gowns. I forgot. All right. Oh, now the game told me, sorry, try again next time. The correct answer actually is see you make your way through the crowd. And it's just kind of like off because of the size of my window here. There we go. Love Flexbox. Yes. All right. So there's our game. Let me go ahead and I'm just gonna refresh it so it's clear. But I'm like I said, as we go through each of these today, I use these 5 basic concepts of Ruby in order to create that game. So I created all of that with some very, very beginner basic Ruby concepts. So we're going to go ahead and go through as much as we can with our remaining time today. And then I'm going to break down, again, the application and just show you the different parts of code where I use that particular concept and what I did. This generation is too young for Taylor Swift, is it? Oh my gosh. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about are put statements. So what is a put statement? Probably the first thing you do. The equivalent of this is probably the first thing that you do with any coding language. It's your hello world for Ruby. So anytime that you want the user, or anytime that you want the user to see any type of text on an application, you're typically going to use a put statement. And then put statements, what they will do is they will add a line of your chosen text onto the screen. And then what a put statement will do is it'll automatically add a new line. So that way any code that executes after it will just move on to the next line. I'll show you why that's important in just a moment here. But that is important to know is that put statements, it will show the text, and then it'll add a line break and move any code that runs after it onto the next line inside of the terminal. So for syntax, what you'll do is you will simply put in puts. So in case you had a hard time understanding what I was saying, it's P-U-T-S for puts. And then inside of quotes, you will then add in the text that you want to display on the screen for the user. So for mine, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 put statements, and I want everyone to do this as well. So for mine, I'm going to put, my name is Rita. And then for the next one, I'm going to puts inside of my puts in my puts. All right, I'll stop with the dad jokes. I have 2 cats. I'll do one more. I live in Richmond, Virginia. All right, and then when I go ahead and click run, we can see all 3 of my statements on the screen. So, yes, I will talk about print in a second. You're getting to what I was talking about. Yeah, unless you actually you said that while I said that. Yeah, we'll talk about the difference between those 2. But yep, I want everyone to go ahead and put in 2 to 3 put statements quickly. And once you're done, please go ahead and share the URL to your REPL inside of chat. I'm going to go ahead and take a look. So you can do what I did. You can put your name. You can talk about your animals too if you want. I talk about my cats in all of my workshops. I'm sure there's some interns in here that can attest to that. And yeah, you can talk about where you live, whatever it may be, just 3 random statements. And Kyle is already on it. Yes. I have no pets. It's all right. And then make sure you run it too afterwards, because 1, it's not going to show on the screen if you don't click that run button. And 2, you want to make sure that, you know, you did your quotes appropriately, things like that. Awesome. Cool. Hack the North is dope. It is. Thank you, Shri, for that. And everyone can continue on. I'm going to show you in the lyric guessing game here. So what I did for the introduction to my game, I did 3 statements here, and I separated them. Yeah, I did 3 put statements. Welcome to Guess That Lyric. Today, we're going to guess the next lyric to our favorite Taylor Swift songs. And then for the third one, I did all 3 songs in 1 statement. You might be wondering what this \n is here. Instead of doing choose a number, then another puts with number one, another puts with number two, and etc. I was able to just put this /n that stands for new line, and then it just again automatically adds a new line inside of whatever text that you're putting on the screen. And again, I just did that for simplicity since they were all related to one another. But the other way to do this would have been to choose a number for puts, then do another puts with blank space and all of that. And we didn't need all that code. So that is here. All right. And I think it was Malia actually pointed out what I was going to mention next. So when it comes to anything that you're doing on Ruby, if you ever do any other tutorials online, you may then see print. There's a key difference between the two. Like I mentioned before with put statements, whenever you put text on the screen, any code that comes after that is going to move onto a new line. So it's going to move into the line underneath whatever has been placed on the screen. When you use print statements, it doesn't matter how many, like if you actually, it doesn't matter the fact that you're putting prints on each line. It's going to take all the text that you print and like put it all into one place. So if you want to test this out for funsies, go ahead and inside of your replit, take 2 of your put statements and then just do 2 prints. And then you'll see the output of that. So if I did, my name is Rita, and I print again, I have 2 cats. I run my code. You'll see that it has now smushed both of those statements onto one line together. Tassine, good question. Go ahead and try it out and tell me what it does. You Belong With Me. Yes, I should have done that song. I actually like that song by her. All right. Cool. Yep, it makes a new line and it's indented as well. Yep, that's what it does. Fantastic. All right, so next thing we're going to do is talk about variables. Right. And the next 2 concepts I'm going to talk about are key to making any application you code in Ruby run. And I like to think of them just as if I would think about a sentence, right? So what are the 2 parts of every sentence? There are 2 parts to every sentence that you write or speak in the English language has what 2 things? Subject and a predicate, yes. Or even more simply, a noun and a verb, right? Every sentence has a noun and a verb. So what I like to think about, like how I like to compare variables is to think about them kind of like your nouns, right? So our variables are variables in Ruby or any programming language. They allow us to hold data. And with that data, we are then able to take that variable name and we can reuse it throughout our code however many times we need to. And that's great for us because we don't want to have to constantly rewrite a string or some line of text or rewrite some number. We can use variables to store that and to hold that value of that data for us to reuse later. So let me actually demonstrate that to help it make a little bit more sense here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of variables here. So I'm going to now write the rest of my example coding for you today as if I have my own farm. Okay. So I'm going to create my farm. The name of my farm is Rita's Farm. Easy peasy, right? And in my farm, I have some animals, right? So I have some chickens. I have three. I have a dog that helps me wrangle all my animals, just one dog. And then I have some pigs because I like bacon. I have 6 pigs. All right. When you're creating variables in Ruby, there's one key difference here than there are with other programming languages. So for those of you who are familiar with Java, JavaScript, you normally have to put some type of keyword variable, which is in JavaScript, they use let, const, var, if you're old school like me and Vince. In Java, you have to specify whether it's a string, an integer, I believe like a float or a double or and all of that. The great thing about Ruby is that you don't have to do any of that stuff. You simply just set the name, set it equal to, and Ruby knows based on whether you're using a string, a Boolean, or a number, it knows what piece of data that you're using, which is really nice. So for all of you, you all are also farmers like me today. All right. So I want you to go ahead and create a couple of variables. I want you to give a name to your farm. And then I want you to pick 2 animals and then go ahead and give me a number of how many animals that you have on your farm. And then when you're done, I want you to go ahead and drop your link into Replit again so I can see what you've completed. Yeah, Ruby and Python are pretty similar. In fact, I believe they're both created around the same time. That's the cool thing about softly typed. Not sure of that term. What do you mean by softly typed? I think I get what you're saying, but I'm not. Could you explain what you mean by that? Think. Yeah, so I guess a good way to put it is it's not like as declarative as like Java and some of those other languages, for sure. When it comes to certain things, yes, it's not as declarative. I don't need to specify that Rita's farm is a string. I don't need to do that. There you go. Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I was like, I think I know what you're asking me. Let me just make sure before I answer that. Yep, awesome. Is it Samaj? I think that's whose I clicked, whose Replit I clicked. Awesome. Stuart just gave me Old McDonald's farm. That's fine too. Great. And yeah, as you get deeper into Ruby, there are other types of variables and things that you'll use, but at a very basic level, this is how you create your variables. So while you all are continuing to set up your farm, I'm going to go ahead and break down just inside the game where I created a couple of variables. So for the purposes of today's game, I only created 2. One of them is the number variable, and that number variable holds whatever choice that the user picked. So depending on the song that they picked, it grabs that number. And then I created a variable down here called guess. And what guess does is it actually takes the string that the user types in of whatever their guess is for the next lyric, and it grabs that. So just a note about this line of code here called gets.chomp. So when you use gets.chomp in Ruby, it allows 2 things. One, the user to grab or allows it allows the computer to grab user input, and then that gets.chomp creates a new line on the page for it, or removes it removes the new line from the text that's put in. So whenever you want to grab user input, you'll use gets.chomp, and then whatever the user inputs will get stored in the variable that you set it in. Great. We talked about that, and that's gets.chomp. If you need to see it a little bit up close and personal for what I did. So now we're going to talk about methods. Now, if variables are nouns, so to speak, inside of an application, then methods are verbs. Methods tell our application what to do and how to execute it. So what we're going to do is we're going to just write a couple of very basic methods. The first one I'm going to do for my farm is I'm just going to tell the computer to add the number of chickens and the number of pigs that I have. So methods in Ruby, a couple of steps that you need to do in order to create a method properly. The first one that you're going to do is write def. Def defines the method that you're going to write for your application. You're going to give your method a name. You can name your method whatever you want to, but something that I highly recommend that you do is to make sure that the name that you give your method is related to what you want your method to do. Because if you create a method called X, you're going to have a really bad time when you go back and look at your code later and realizing that I have no clue like what X is doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a method called count. Okay. And then for counts, don't do that, Replit. I am going to add two things I'm going to do here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a puts here. Because for today's purposes, we need to make sure we print everything to the console so that way we can see if it's working correctly. If I don't put the puts here for this, the method will still run. I just won't be able to see on the console that it worked. So by me doing this, it's the equivalent of doing like a console log in JavaScript or something like that. You're not typically going to write methods like this all the time. But again, we want to actually be able to see that the method worked correctly. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw a puts here. So for this puts, I'm going to put, since I stored the number of chickens inside of a variable and the number of pigs inside of a variable, I'm just going to tell it to put my chickens plus my eggs. And then I'll use end to finish off that I have written everything in the method. So after you create your method, again, using def, you name your method, you put in the actions that you want your method to take, and you close it off. Then you're going to call your method. So just like in JavaScript, Java, similar program languages, you're going to put the name of the method that you created in order to tell the computer, all right, this is where I want you to actually run it. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, chicks and eggs. Woo, pigs. I'm going to go ahead and click run. Chickens. Chickens counts. What did I do? Hold on. Plus chickens plus pigs. Yes, what did I do? What is wrong? Gotta print? No. Put should be, or hold on.
You gotta send chickens to the method, I think.
Oh, so then this won't be a good example. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I was thinking because maybe, okay, yeah, my thought process. All right, so I'm going to show you how to use chicken plus pigs a different way. But right now, for purposes of this, I'm going to do, see, just going to do 3 plus 6. It's 3 plus 6. There we go. Wait, 9. Remove my prints. Yeah, there we go. So for count, if I do put statement and then do any type of math, and then call it, it will then, as we can see, it puts that it puts whatever it equals onto the screen for us. This could also be written like so, where I can do a puts where I call the method, and either one works. So now, if I write my methods like this, as we can see, it works, right? Like I could do one method that counts numbers like this. I could do another method that subtracts. But if we have to create small methods to keep doing like the same thing or similar actions over and over, that just becomes pretty silly. And then next thing you know, you have a line of code. I don't want to have to create like 4 different functions just to do addition, right? And this is where we write methods that have arguments in them. I'm going to go ahead and show you this next slide to show you the difference between the two. So similar to what I did inside of the example, when I have a method that just like the example here, I can simply call it and it produces something, right? But what we can do is we can add what's called arguments to a method. And those arguments, what they allow us to do is they allow us to customize our functions arguments allow us to customize our methods, as I like to say. So anytime I need to do any type of addition, instead of doing all these different methods that are just adding 2 different sets of numbers over and over again, I can simply just write one method that allows me to input 2 numbers, does that action, and then I can call that method no matter how many times I want to inside of my application. And then each time it runs that method, it'll give me the appropriate answer. So for this example here, I have that add method, and I gave it parameters that accept 2 numbers, or arguments that accept 2 numbers, number 1 and number 2. I've told the computer to just add whatever number 1 is and add whatever number 2 is. And then once I call it, it then gives me the appropriate answers, which those numbers do not add up. Oh no, they do, 6 and 8. So what I'll do here is I'm going to do my call count again. And then this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those chickens and pigs and I'll add them, or I'll put num1 and num2. All right. And then I'm going to tell it to add num1, num2 in my method. And then I'm going to go ahead and call my method. I'm going to put 2 random numbers each time I count it. Now this time, silly me, I'm going to actually use my chickens and my pigs here. and then I'm going to run it. Oh, I need to put my puts. There we go. So that way it actually prints, because that's not going to work. Run. Here we go. Yeah, global variables are typically bad form. Again, because this is a very beginner Ruby lesson, you're not going to want to do that typically. And again, going through our program, and as you start learning Ruby concepts, you'll learn the proper ways to do so. But see here, now that I've created a method that does that addition for me, now no matter what numbers I put in, no matter how many chickens, pigs, or whatever, it's always going to add those together and print them for me. So if for some reason I decide later I want 9 pigs and I have 11 chickens, every time it adds the chickens and pigs together, it updates it accordingly. Yep. So apologize for my hiccup there, but and then here, what I did was I created a method called song, and I took the first line of the song that I wanted it to show on the screen, and then the next line of the song. Now in this method, I'm just going to talk to you about what's happening here. You don't need to know all of this today, but just so you understand what's happening here. What I did was add some put statements. So again, we're showing the computer what's that first line that I wanted, and then what's the next line that comes. And then the user can input then what they want inside of that method. The rest of this method, what it's doing is it then is taking the guess that the user inputs. And then if they equal each other, then it's saying, oh, all right, you did a great job. That answer is correct. And then otherwise it's putting onto the screen that the next line is, oh, sorry, try again next time. The next line is actually this. Yeah. Now that I'm looking at time, I'm realizing that we might not, that I'm not going to quite have enough time to get to the rest of what's happening here. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and talk about if-else statements. And then I'll talk through the last part of this where we start getting into the case statements where I added the lyrics to the song. So just like in life, everything happens depending upon other conditions, right? Everything's not black and white. Everything's just not cut and dry. We need certain things to happen for us to be able to do other things. So just like in coding, your code is not always going to execute one specific function. Depending upon what the user's doing, how they're interacting with your application, what they're inputting, things like that, we're going to want our applications to take different actions. So this is where if-else statements come in. If-else statements are the key to adding basic logic into your application. They're used all the time, even in their simplest forms, and even in bigger or small applications, you're always going to put if-else statements somewhere. So for this, to kind of wrap up as far as the coding, for the last thing I would like everyone to do today is for you to all make an if-else statement. When you're writing an if-else statement, you are going to you have your if, and your if is going to have your condition. What condition do you want the computer to meet initially? And then the code that you want it to run if the computer meets that condition. Then you're going to have your else statement. And then your else, the way I like to think of it is the other possible action that you're totally fine with happening in the event that that condition is not met. That's what you're going to put as your else statement. The one thing that you always need to know about your else statement is that, again, you have to be completely fine with this other option happening, no matter what happens with your application. So if, for example, if you're writing an if statement, or better yet, the way I like to think of it, a good analogy is like ordering pizza, right? So if you order, let's say, a sausage pizza, right? If you order a sausage and sausage is available, then you want to get a sausage pizza, right? If you order a pepperoni pizza and a pepperoni pizza is available, then you want to get a pepperoni. Your else is like, if nothing else, like if you don't have these two, I'm totally okay with this happening. It's not ideal, but I'll deal with it, right? So otherwise, give me a cheese pizza. You don't want to put else, give me like, mushrooms if you hate mushrooms, So you want your else to be something that is still ideal, like in case of it happening, but, it might not be your favorite thing, but you're still okay with the application running it if it doesn't meet the other conditions. So for your if statement, what I want everyone to do to finish up is put something that checks your chickens to your pigs or to two of the different animals that you have. So I'm going to say here that if my chickens are greater than my pigs, to put something that says I have more chickens, and then else. I have more pigs. And then, like everything else, you'll close it off with an end, and then you'll run it. Yep. So keep that for just a moment here to, oops, sorry. Yeah. I'll keep that here just a moment for you to look at the syntax. If you haven't noticed by now, when it comes to writing a Ruby and Python compared to other programming languages, you see how we don't have those semicolons and those curly braces and all of those other fun things that will break your application. Cool thing about Ruby is that you don't really have to worry about those for the most part. You're going to use them when you're using other concepts and working on other concepts. But as far as like, when it comes to if else and writing functions and stuff, it's nice. Makes your code a lot more readable and easier to dissect when you need to. So that's where I used an if else was here for my guessing game. Again, just checking if if the guess that the user inputted equal to what the correct next line was. Put a great job, else, sorry, next time, and then the correct line. The last thing I wanted to cover was the case statement. And what case statements do is, let's say you have all of these different possibilities that you want the application to run, all of these other conditions that could be met before you want to get to your else, right? This is where case statements come in. And case statements allow us to add in all of those different conditions that could be met without doing if, else, if, else, if, else, if, else, and having this kind of like ridiculous chain of if, else statements. So for here, the final thing that I did was I created a case that pulled the number that the user put in. So if the number equaled 1, that means they chose was blank space. So I have the song method that I created back here. I have the first line, and then I have the next line. And then for same thing for 2, the first line of that song, and then the next line, same thing for 3. The first line of Welcome to New York, and then that last line. And then if they don't choose either of these numbers, then they get a, oops, sorry, the number that you chose wasn't invalid. And I put that else there because if I didn't, it would have just like stopped running the program. So the else is important here because again, I want it to run, it's not my ideal thing. Obviously I want the user to choose a number, but since they didn't, I don't want the application to just close out. I want it to tell the user, hey, like choose another number. So I'm going to share this inside of the Discord chat. So if anyone wants to run it, if you want to fork it and make your own copy and play around with the lyric guessing game, kind of playing with the concepts we talked about today, feel free to dissect it. You can ask me questions inside of the Discord as well as to why I did certain things. Like, for example, this here, where the first line goes, and things like that. I'll be happy to dive in a little bit more and to answer those questions for you. But that is it for today. So I want to thank you all for coming to the workshop. Live coding is great because they can make boo-boos in real time. But I appreciate all of you, and it's been a lot of fun. Yes, thank you. Yeah, awesome. And claps for Vince. Thank you for being sidekick for me today. I definitely appreciate it. All of your help. And yeah, we come say hi to us throughout the rest of your time at Hack the North. Whenever we're around and we can be around to help, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you all may have. Yep. Have a great day, everyone.